Welcome to Park Talks. This is Daniel. Park it and let's talk about it. Can you think about a book in the Bible where the word or words love, heart, mouth, words, or tongue do not exist? Can you think of a world without these words? How about a city? What about a person? If a person lives without love, heart, words, mouth, will help you find the intentions of their heart and what's in there. Pastor I was recently listening to, Pastor Leon, I believe his name is, was pointing to a fact that the heart is the only center of the body where it is, they say it's proven, but a lot of times the Bible points right to it. It's the only point in the body where the spirit and the soul come together. We'll come back to that. What does the Word say about what does the Bible say about our heart? How does it influence the world around us? Where does it really come from? The heart. The words of the heart. What are the intentions? What lives there? What grows there? The processing of thought is done in the mind. What you have in mind, you focus on. What you focus on feeds your heart. The heart is the emotional center, not the thought processing center. Now, if we use our mind to program our heart, and the intentions of our heart, actions of our heart, and words of our mouth are murder, adultery, immorality, theft, deceitfulness, slander. By the way, I'm in Mark 15:19 for that. For out of the heart come the evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, and slander. It's also found again in Mark 7:21. What do you think is going to come out of the mouth? We are to judge our thoughts, taking every thought captive. We learn about that in the New Testament. A good person, out of the good treasure of his heart, produces good. And the evil person, out of his evil treasure, produces evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I believe these words were spoken by Christ himself. In Luke 6:45, I found that. And it just keeps going on. By just typing in the word heart into a search engine, which I did on the ESV version, I had in excess of 860 references in the Bible about the heart. Majority of them had things to do with words and the tongue and the thoughts. So if we are using our mind to program our heart, I believe that we're using the influences that came in through our gates to process in thought and then to move it to our emotional center. This being the place, like the pastor was alluding to, where the spirit and the soul combine. Then you have to look and ask yourself, is the flesh what's being satisfied or the spirit? Which direction is your consciousness going? James 3:14 reminds us, but if you have bitter jealousy, selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast and be a false witness to the truth. The truth, that's Christ, not you, or what you're saying. If anyone thinks he's religious and does not bridle his tongue, he deceives his heart. This person's religion is worthless. Kind of take a little bite on this one here. It says, you have lived on the earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. Fatten your hearts. Fatten your physical, your conscious, or your spiritual. It's where they come together. From out of the heart flows the abundance of life. Is your heart negative, anxious, worried, fearful, hateful, scared, and this up-tempo, ask yourself, what's in there? If anyone thinks he's religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this person's religion is worthless. What else could be in the heart? Remember, if we want to see fruit on the vine, we've got to start with good seed and good soil, right? And it's got to take root. That takes a while. What else could be in there? I roll this all the way back into Genesis. Yeah. So that means it's been there a while. Blame. I didn't do it, God. The woman you gave me. She said, hey, whoa, it was a snake. It wasn't me. Blame. Not my fault. Blame of something or someone is a convenient hiding place. It will shield and hide you from the position of change. Although the reality is a paper-thin defense, and only for the weak-minded. You make a decision to do something or an action, no matter what the outcome, own it. If it causes hurt, pain, or separation, own it. Seek forgiveness. Your expectations, maybe low expectations, you reached out for something and didn't hit right where you wanted. How do you know what you got right now isn't the result of many other decisions that led up to that? Good or bad. It could also be a place of where you're learning right now. Maybe the gold didn't choose to be tested. It was just time for the test. On the flip side of that, having a high expectation, not achieving it. I want to be a millionaire by next week, but I'm not going to have a job. Something silly. I want to be a genius, but I already know it all. That can cause a person to self-doubt. Blame could also be just an excuse can just be a shift of the blame also. Now, that leads you to look at the self-image of the individual. If a person can't own what they do, blame others for everything that happens, builds excuses around their life, I would have to look at self-image. How does someone become a weak-hearted individual? Their self-image, their belief system, their personal walk with God. Check and see if any one of those three might have a little issue. They're all fixable. They're all behavioral. A few thoughts or ideas that might help is when you stop thinking that your friends and those who are close to you would lie or deceive you for any reason. When others tell you something good about yourself, I got an idea. For 1 month, believe it. If they're wrong, they'll prove it. Understand, every day we're learning something. We're growing. All right? How many, parents look back? I wish I knew what I knew now when I was raising them then. My choices would have been different. The outcome would have been different. But at the time, good parents use the knowledge that they have at that time to make the decisions needed in the moment. You're not always going to agree with them. I didn't agree with mine in a lot of areas. But what happens if we decide to just, something, move past whatever it is? Don't live there. Don't live there. Seriously. Drain the knowledge out of it in the moment. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. My goal, drain the knowledge, learn from it. If you got to remember it, remember it. How do you keep the negative alive? How do you burn your self-image? What's that axe chopping at your pillars? Your thoughts. You take those negative situations, connotations, or even thoughts about yourself, who you think you are, and focus your energy on it. Remembering a past loved one is the way we keep people alive. Talking about them, sharing their teachings and wisdom. Jesus would keep him alive in our hearts, in our beliefs, in our walk. Why? Because of what he did. because he loved us before we were lovable, sacrificed for us when we didn't deserve it. So let me see. Let's take out the old, okay? Let's just seriously, 1 month we're going to stop. Nah, I'm not that person. No, I'm not good. No, you know something? I am good. 1 month, I'm going to challenge anybody to take this right here. Philippians 4:4-9. Love this one here. And if you could just get this part in your head and drop it in your heart. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious, anxiety, for anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Jesus Christ. Really? Now, how does that help? Let me get it right here, verse 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worth praise, think about these. Now, if we're programming our thoughts from our heart, from that basis alone, off that one scripture, what's it going to look like? Let's take verse 9, a little bit more. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you, even when it sucks, because that will happen. Peace. What causes the flesh to be drug around? Remember, it's coming out of the heart. What do you desire? What do you want? Do you want you to be seen and known? Or do you want God to be seen and known? Do you want the actions of the sacrifice to be known? A little light was illuminated. I was trying to figure out exactly where that was coming from. But this morning, out of nowhere, scripture popped up. But each person is tempted when he is lured or enticed by his own desire. What's your first desire? Is it God? Your relationship with God? Without a life of demonstrating relationship with God and love of others, nobody's going to believe you love God. They will know you're Christians by your expensive Bible, nice suit, big car, tithing amount, tax deductions, huge church, great sound system, by your love. Is not the day of the Lord darkness and not light and gloom with no brightness in it? I despise your feasts, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. And the peace offerings of your fattened animals, I will not look upon them. Take away from me the noise of your songs. To the melody of your hearts, I will not listen. So any of you who love singing, worshiping, reread that. Let's keep going. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like ever-flowing streams. Did you bring me sacrifice and offerings during the 40 years in the wilderness, O house of Israel? Amos 5:20-25. They will know you are Christians by your love. What if your actions have no love in them? What if your life demonstrates no light? What if the only thing people know is battle, torture, torment through your words? Mark 7:6-8, real quick. And he said unto them, well, did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites? As it is written, the people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. This is Jesus' report. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. You leave the commandments of God and hold to the traditions of men. We've always done it that way. That's just traditional. The way Mom and Dad used to do it. I learned it that way in college. The list grows on and on. Those type of thoughts. Ask most people these days if they're happy. You'd be surprised at the response. So then we look to professionals because we're not happy. They go to mental health professionals. They go to medical professionals. Some may offer some type of a pharmacology for a solution. Some may offer a thought process. Some of them go after behavioral changes or modifications. Does it work long term? I believe you would find the answer to that question if you was to look up the new crime statistics and also look at the recidivism rate in the prison system. Use that as a test. We keep making laws and rules and regulations. Are they working? You know, every time you make another law, you make another 10,000 criminals. I didn't know it was 35 mile an hour in that zone. Been going up and down that road my entire life at 50. I didn't know it was a law until you made it a law. If we want to change or see a person's change, you truly want to, the solution that I've found is it begins in the heart. You offer, not require, delicately, compassionately, consistently, clothed in truth and love, what you know as your truth. Everybody comes from a different background. Physical, theological, psychological. Learn from them. Offer what you know. Some people will not pick it up and understand it. Some people will grow from it, as you will from them. Once the thought process of change and communication is adapted into a person's life, you will slowly start to see a heart change. It'll be noticed by their life and by the words in their life. And the more they grow, the more they'll enrich others. Think of it this way. I cannot receive shade from a tree unless the tree was there. The tree could not be there unless planted and rooted. So years later, I reaped the benefit of the investment for the growth. I refer to planting a garden a lot in park talks, yet know very little about it. I'll be the first to say that. Learning. But here's something I have picked up recently, over the last couple of years. When you plant a garden, beginning of the season, it's tilled, it's fertilized, it's prepared. You spend your efforts and your time buying seeds, selecting the fruits. And now you go out there and you plant. And now, let's suppose you get busy. Really busy. Like, real busy. Or you just let it go. For whatever the reason. Here's what I assume will happen. Here's what I've seen. The weeds will grow. The pests and the bugs will sneak in and destroy, little bits at a time. For what I've seen, they eat like the leaves, and that's where the plant drives or gains most of its growth is through the leaves, like from the sun. The thieves or animals, they'll come by and destroy and help themselves, little bunny rabbits and deer and whatever. The dog might stomp through it. Now, if it's totally ignored in the garden, it's not watched, here's what happens. All of your former efforts, the tilling, the fertilizing, all that stuff, all the investment of the seed and the time, probability of the root that could be there, invested loss, and the growth of any fruit. Anything that grows, to include the weeds, will return back to the soil as waste. Death of life and power, or death and life, are in the power of the tongue. Those who love, action, love it, will eat its fruits. 2 Corinthians 10:3-6. For though we walk in flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. We're not in Ephesians 6. 2 Corinthians 10. Though we walk in the flesh, dirtbag, we are not waging war against the dirtbag, or the flesh, each other. For the weapons of our warfare are not of flesh, but have divine power. Our words have divine power to destroy the strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. What's that look like for you? Are you ready to punish every disobedience when your obedience is complete? Doesn't say it is now. Could be. Doesn't say it is now. Aren't we talking about thought? The weapons of our warfare are not of flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. Our thought, it starts there. What can we do without thought? We can't pray. We can't believe. We can't have faith. We can't hate, love, anger. Can't do it without thought. It's there first. Let me re-ask this question again. Can you think of a book in the Bible that doesn't have the words love, heart, mouth, words, tongue? What about our world? Where does your influence come from? The processing, we realize, is done in the mind right now. That moves to our heart. That becomes our actions in life and our words. Do emotions drive you? The heart is the emotional center, where the soul and the spirit, the consciousness and the Holy Spirit sit down, have a chat. Is it Hebrews, I believe, or Revelations? I knock at the door. That's kind of your heart. And I'm standing there knocking. If you open and let me in, we can chat. Christ is probably looking at me going, what's up with you, dude? You consciousness called Danny? What are you doing with the dirt? Do people know you're a Christian by your love? Your life? Your emotions? How good are you at promoting your personal opinions? When there are battles inside of us, individually, that battle comes out. What are you fighting for? Is it worth it? Think about it. This is Daniel with Park Talks. Thanks for joining us today. Can't wait to see you next week.